Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Bean, and today we're gonna go through some stats, which I hardly ever do stats anymore, mostly because the second half of last year I read like 10 books total. So I didn't really do any wrap-ups, I didn't really do any stats, but I've decided we're gonna try and do the stats from 2023. How many times can I say stats? In like 2 minutes, count them. And then I'm also going to go through my reading and book goals for 2024. So buckle up and let's get going. I need a drink. I found this at Meijer and I really wanted it because it's got Digimon on it. And I'm reliving my childhood. Come on, say no to Agumon. I dare you. Oh, my hair, what is happening? I just let my hair air dry, so it's kind of doing whatever it wants to today. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what's happening. It's also red now. Oh goodness. That was a lot harder to open than I feel like it should have been. So this is a brown sugar milk tea. Cheers. Probably shouldn't have actually hit my camera. I messed it up a little bit. There we go. That's strange. Not bad, but strange. All right, so let's start off with my 2023 Bookish stats. Now in 2023, I set my Goodreads reading goal at 75 with the hopes of kind of getting to where I get. According to Goodreads, I read 60 books. 6 of these books were DNFs though, and because of that, they were not included in my Storygraph statistics, which is where I'm going to get my graphs and such from that I show you guys here today. So that's kind of that one. So I'm not counting my DNFs in these for the most part. There's hair somewhere. So I'm not really counting those, just so you know. And I have my paper with all my stats on it, so that's what this is. For the remaining books, only 8 books that I read last year were 5-star reads, and I will go through all 8 of those. The 8 that I gave 5 stars to, 2 of them were manga. The first one was A Man and His Cat Volume 1 by Umi Sakurai. The second one was Volume 2. So I love that manga series. It's so cute. It's so adorable. The next book that I did give 5 stars to was Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton. This is his memoir of being a child actor in Harry Potter. I thought it was really well written and well done, and I really loved the audiobook. Honestly, is really what sold it for me, was I loved listening to him narrate this story. I also reread Jurassic Park as well as And Then There Were None. Those are 2 5-star books for me that I absolutely love. Every time I read them, I have read And Then There Were None almost every single year for the past several years, and I might keep that tradition up. It's a good book, it's a good story, a good horror, so I really enjoy it, or a thriller, I really do enjoy it. Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton is another one that I really enjoy that story. I enjoy the made-up science-y stuff behind it, and I think it's a lot that as a writer I can learn from that. I also gave 5 stars to City of Ghosts by V.E. Schwab. It's the first book in a completed middle grade trilogy by her. I just need to find the other 2 books, but since I'm picky, I want them to be hardcover, and they know they aren't printing those anymore, so I need to go find them. So I need to find the hardcover of the next 2 books in that series. I also gave 5 stars to A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. I really enjoyed this first book in a series. I have the second one, and I also have pre-ordered the third one. I think it was so much fun, such just kind of a fun story, and I really enjoyed it. And the last book that I gave 5 stars to was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I really liked this story. I liked how it went, and I liked the direction of the whole romance itself. I thought it was a really good story about self-discovery and finding your own worth. So I thought it was a good book. I know not everybody liked it, but I really did enjoy it. Those were the 8 books that I gave 5 stars to. And then going down the line, I gave a 4.5 star to 10 different books. I gave 4 stars to 13 books, 3.5 stars, 13 books, 3 stars went to 4 books, 2.5 stars, 2 books, and then 3 books got 2 stars. So, and throughout the year, I read the most number of books in January, which was I read 8 books. So that was the most books I read in a month last year. which isn't a high number for what I normally read, but again, I'm taking everything with a grain of salt. We did a lot last year. We moved last year as well, so that was a whole other thing. Yeah, lots been happening, so we'll see how this year goes. Of these books that I read, 67% were printed books. That comes out to approximately 36 books were printed books that I either owned, borrowed from the library, or borrowed from a friend. 12 were ebooks, or 22%, so I did make a small dent in the stupid number of books on my Kindle right now, as well as the books that are available online. And then only 6 were audiobooks, so 11% of what I read. This ended up totaling about 13,809 pages and 59.62 hours of listening. Yes, I do consider audiobooks to be books. Moving on. Of these books, my top genre was fantasy. No one is surprised. Absolutely no one is surprised by this. 21 of the books that I read this year were fantasy. 12 were horror, which was surprisingly my next genre that I read the most of. I don't think I've ever read 12 horror books in a year, but I am definitely jumping into that genre and absolutely loving my time there. 11 books were romance, so that was my next one, followed by mystery at 10, and then thriller books at 9. So my top genres have slightly shifted, but it's always been fantasy. It's always going to be fantasy. I love fantasy. I love going to different worlds and finding out new things, but the horror at second is new. That one is new. Of all the books that I read, I only read 2 nonfiction this year. I really didn't read many nonfiction books, period. I read almost all of them were fiction this year. I needed escape from the world for this year. That's just how the year went. As far as length, this actually surprised me. I didn't realize how many of the books that I read were as short as they were, but over half, so 56%, 30 of the books I read were 300 pages or less. I say that I read, that I finished. 30 of the books that I finished were 300 pages or less. A lot of them were about in 280s, 290s, but still, I was surprised by this. I thought I read longer books this year, and apparently I did not. About 21 of them were between 300 to 499 pages, and 3 of them were over 500 pages. So I did not read how I normally do, which I usually like to read a lot more big books, and I read a lot of smaller books this year, so that was kind of an interesting development as well. Overall, as far as 2023 goes, I'm really pretty happy with how I did, considering everything that was going on. There was a lot of mental health stuff going on this past year as well, but overall, I still read books. I still read at least 1 book a month, which also I saw some stats online that's better than 50% of the American population. I'm not trying to be better than anyone else, but I do work in a library, and I do want to continue reading books even while I'm in school, even while especially while I'm surrounded by books, because I do still get asked for recommendations, and we have a constant display up of staff recommendations, so I would like to keep switching it up and getting new books on there as well, which is another reason why the library has become a place that I really try to get more books from. For 2024, I'm just going to do a couple goals that I've got going on. I am sticking with the 75 books on my TBR. I still want to I keep it relatively low. I say low, but before this past year, I've really been going up above 100 books most of the time. I do feel like I'm a little bit better in the swing of how school will work. And I am actually taking a YA selection course for school this year, so I'm thinking I might be reading a few more YA for that class. I don't know yet. I haven't actually figured that out, but I'm keeping it at 75 books. I'm hoping to reach that, if not go above it. One of my priorities for 2024 is to read the books that I own. I have been working on a spreadsheet on my Excel document, or on an Excel document, where I have classified and categorized every single book I own. And there are over 800 books in our house. Again, this is over 10 years of collecting books. Like, this is a long time collection, but I've only read about a quarter of them, because I do unhaul books that I don't like, that I don't think I'll read again. I unhaul them right away and I replace them with like 10 more books. So I do want to get into the habit of reading a lot more of the books that I own. And before I buy, especially books that I've never read the author, I don't know anything about it, I want to read the library book first, mostly because right now we just don't have the space for me to be buying a bunch of books. I really don't have anywhere to put them right now, which is unfortunate. That's the way it goes. So, for those of you who follow me on my other channel, I just reorganized and cleaned up the library because it got to be such a mess in here because I ran out of space for everything, and I found space for most things by adding a box shelf of sorts. But I would still like to try and get that number up from a quarter to maybe like half of my books I've read, because there are over 800 of them, and I don't think I can read 250 books in a year. That's a little bit much for me, not gonna lie, but I would still like to have read a lot more of my books. The other part to go along with that is that I have amassed quite the collection of ebooks. I have been a member of NetGalley. I have been getting ARCs from them for years, and I have fallen woefully behind on that. And I would like to, my rating right now for books I've read and reviewed versus books I have not yet read and reviewed is about 50%, which is really not a good rating, and I'm really, really ashamed of that, and I would like to get that up to at least 65%. And if I can get that higher, it'd be even better, but we'd like to start at a reasonable number that I can get to. So that is my other goal. I'd like to get through several of those books every month. Another goal that I do have is I do want to try and read every day. As of right now, I keep track of how many words I read a day. I think I'm going to add to that how many pages I read a day, and so that way I can keep track of it and try and get back into reading being an actual habit. Between having these goals and having this channel, it just makes a lot more sense that way, honestly. And along that line, I did DNF 8 books this year. I'm gonna keep that theme. If I don't like a book within a quarter to half of it, I'm done. I don't wanna, I have too many books to honestly waste my time reading books that I'm not enjoying. So I'm not gonna do it. We're just not gonna do it. That's just how it's gonna be. So yes, and then one final goal that I am absolutely horrendous at is series. I love to start series. I love to start new series. I like to get into them, and then I forget. And then I don't finish them. Even if I gave the first book like a 5-star, I just don't finish the series. So my goal for this year is to finish 6 of them. We'll see how that goes. But that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, you know, all that good stuff. It really does help us out quite a bit. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep reading. Bye!